Hello everybody, and welcome back to episode 26 of our video series in which we program an entire video game from scratch in the C programming language. Last time we were messing with our main menu, our title screen menu, and it's looking pretty good. We have sound effects both for navigating the menu and also for exiting the game. We have a screen transition, a game state transition from title screen to this confirmation screen. And so I think today we'll just continue hammering those things out. So first thing first, I want to go ahead and take care of one thing, and I'll use what we already have as an example. Right now we're looking at the title screen. If I go down to exit and select exit, it says, are you sure you want to exit the game? And if I hit no right here, it's going to take me back to the title screen, but notice that the selected item is still on exit. And I don't think that's what we want to do. I think that whenever we go to this confirmation screen and then back again, I think that this title screen should be reset, and effectively it should be like we're getting here for the first time again. So the selected item should go back to start new game, as opposed to being left on exit where it was. So that is what we are going to use the That's what we're going to use these local frame counter things for. Let me go to title screen, draw title screen. Here we go. Okay. So we've got these two statics right here, and it's odd that the compiler never warns us that we don't ever use these, considering that we have all the warnings turned on. Seems odd that it would never warn us about this, but anyway, let's see. Okay, local frame counter. We're going to increment that each frame, and then last frame scene equals G performance data dot total frames rendered. Then we're going to go back up towards the beginning, and we're going to say if last frame scene is greater than local frame counter, then we're going to reset all of our stuff. We're basically going to reset the menu, or reset the scene, reset this game state back to its original state. And right now, this is only going to apply to things like which menu item is selected, but it's also going to do things like resetting animations if we have any animations that play, depending on whether the scene has already started or is in progress. Those things will get reset too. Let's see, total frames. Oh, it's not right. Last frame scene. Sorry, this actually needs to be if G performance data dot total frames rendered is greater than last frame scene, and G menu title screen dot selected item equals 0. Now this brings our title screen is sort of a special case, because if you recall, we had the situation where the resume item was actually the first item in the menu, but the resume item only should only exist or should only appear on the screen if there's already a game in progress. So that sort of makes me think that we should go ahead and do this part first, where the stuff that I did last time, here, I'll go ahead and just, if game is in progress, if game is in progress, that means that resume should be there. And if a game is not in progress, then resume will not be there. And so selected item should be 1. And I think that's pretty much it. That being said, we're probably about to change that code. So now, if we select no, we don't want to exit, we'll see that now our counter has been, or our menu selected item has been reset to start new game. And this is going to be the exact same logic that we get into when we implement the options screen and various other menus throughout the game. I mean, we may have, dozens, maybe hundreds of menus by the time the game is actually complete. So it's good that we get this stuff hammered out right off the bat. That being said, I think I'm going to change this logic. Where effectively I'm going to add another member to menu item, and it's going to be enabled. Now I need to fix all of these definitions. Let's see. All right, that one is going to be initialized to false because resume is not going to be enabled at the beginning of the game. It's only going to be enabled after we've actually started a new game. Make sense? The rest of these, however, are enabled right off the bat. Everything else is fine. Okay, that should be fine. Now we're going to go back here and we're going to do this right here is this code, this line of code right here is no longer necessary. It's garbage and I hate it, so we're going to change it. For each menu item, we're going to do, instead of that, we're going to do if gmenu items enabled equals true. And we no longer need that branch. And I feel like we probably don't even need that anymore. This way it's only going to draw the menu item if it's enabled. So it should not print out resume. Now this piece right here, yeah, that's fine. Let's go to process player input title screen. And I think I may actually put these title screens. I don't know if I want to make separate files. If I make a separate file called process player input.c, and I put all of the PPI underscore functions in that one file, for example. That's a possibility. Another possibility is, what if I did title screen.c, and then inside of the file title screen.c I put PPI underscore title screen as well as draw title screen. That way I didn't have to flip back and forth every time I wanted to change something about the title screen. I'd have to flip to different files. Okay. Do I need to change this? See, I kind of want to get rid of that variable. What if I did this instead? What if I got rid of this global variable? That way it avoids this situation of confusion where you've got two variables that are very similarly named, and the only reason we know them apart is because we commented them. What if I did away with that and instead I put something in either, no, I don't think I want to do perf data. I could do active or is alive maybe. I guess we'll do active. That way we could do if it's true. That means that we should be showing the resume menu item. If not, then we should just show start new game. Okay, that worked perfectly fine. So we don't need to do that. We don't need to do that. I want to make another game state called where are my game states? There we go. Opening, splash screen, title screen. Game state, Gamepad unplugged. Okay. So now we go to process player input. So here we've got a situation where a gamepad was detected. However, we failed to get the state of the buttons, which means that it was probably unplugged. Okay. Current game state equals game state gamepad unplugged. The previous game state is going to be our current game state. Okay. Now we need to go and implement this game state. I want this to be where all the other ones are. We're going to make another menu. GMI_ gamepad unplugged. Yes. Oh, actually, let me think. There doesn't need to be a yes or no menu. There doesn't need to be a yes or no menu on this screen at all. So let me not do that. I'll go back to here. I forgot I need to set this back to -1. And the reason we're doing this is because remember earlier when I first implemented all of this gamepad stuff, the idea was that if someone came along and like kicked the cord out of the console, like imagine if you're playing on a Nintendo or a game box or something like this, if someone were to just like disconnect the controller, or maybe your controller ran out of batteries if it's a wireless controller or something like that, when that happens, I want the game to pause essentially. It may be not as important for an RPG style game that we're making here, but it would be much more important if the game had more like live action in it. You would want the game to pause so that you had the opportunity to go and plug the gamepad back in, right? So, right. Okay. So I am pretty sure that we already have the logic in our main game loop in WinMain. Every 2 seconds, it should try to rediscover the gamepad, right? So yeah, here we are in while game is running, and we do a, there it is, find first connected gamepad right there. So I believe all we need to do is if gamepad is greater than -1, G input, I forgot what my variables are called. Game input, G game input. Thought that's what I was already typing. No. G game input dot escape key is down and not game input dot escape key was down. Yeah, I'll be darned. I don't have an escape key was down, which I'm pretty sure I should. I think the reason why I did not initially put an escape key was down, remember here, was that before the only thing our escape key did was immediately exit the game, so it didn't matter. But now we're getting to a point where our escape key doesn't work like that anymore, so it does matter. So I'm going to do that, and okay. So what I'm doing here is I'm essentially saying that if our gamepad was rediscovered, or if the user hit the escape key, then I'm going to leave this game state. So I'm going to say g current game state equals previous game state, and g previous game state equals game state gamepad unplugged. Let's go to process player input. Okay. Now I need to make a draw gamepad unplugged function. we're going to do our usual blanking the screen every frame. By setting all the bits to 0. And then we're going to put a couple strings onto the drawing surface. Okay, the string is going to be okay, this string is going to be something like Gamepad disconnected. And this string is going to be something like reconnect it, or press escape to continue using the keyboard. Sheet color will be white. X coordinate will be how we usually center things, so it'll be something like game res width times divided by 2 minus the string length of gamepad unplugged string 1 divided by 2. And then the y coordinate will be 100. I think that's it. Gamepad plugged string 2. Font. And a y coordinate here of, I don't know, 115. Okay, hang on. We need to game state gamepad unplugged, draw gamepad unplugged. It always takes me a while to remember the exact syntax for initializing a structure in a function call like that. Let's put these things on separate lines. Okay, from 16, just to get rid of these compiler warnings. Okay, fine. Now, if I take my controller and unplug it, let's see what happens. Okay, so the game state transition worked. This obviously is not centered. Apparently I thought I had a lot more room to write than I actually do. Or I feel like... Anyway, so let's pretend that I didn't want to... Let's say that I didn't want to continue using the gamepad, so I just hit escape. I hit escape. It takes me back to the previous game state, which happens to have been the title screen. And actually, if I plug this back in now, it should start working again within the next 2 seconds. Okay, so this time what I'm going to do differently is I'm going to plug this back in while I'm still standing at the screen, and it automatically takes me back to the title screen after I've plugged the gamepad back in. So that works very well, all except for this part not being centered. What did I do wrong? I know what I did wrong. I did not take into account the width of each character times 6, because each character is 6 pixels wide. Okay, let's try it again. Unplug. There we go. It's perfect. Plug it back in. All right. That's awesome. That works really well, and so we probably will never have to mess with it again. All right, let's continue on. We have to make an option screen next. And for this one, we will definitely need a menu. Menu item. GMI. Options screen. Sound effects volume. I'm going to need music volume. Probably going to need a resolution. for the weirdos out there that don't want the game to actually take up the entire screen. And and we'll definitely need a back button. Screen back. Alright, let's fill these things out. Volume. You know, I keep typing this algorithm so much that I should probably make a macro out of it. In fact, that's exactly what I'll do. Yeah. Maybe later. I'll do it later. And how many characters long is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11, 6. Enabled, true. It's going to point to a menu, item, options, screen, sound effects, volume. Music volume. Center screen. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 characters long. And 15. Although I shouldn't actually call it resolution, because we aren't actually going to be changing the resolution of the game. We're only going to be changing the screen size of the game. So in other words, the game's resolution is always going to be 384 by 240 no matter what. But we could totally change the picture size, the window size, so that it doesn't take up the entire screen if we wanted to. So let me go ahead and change that. Screen size. And I'm wasting my time horizontally centering centering these, because I'm going to end up vertically centering them as well, I think. I don't know. Forgot an apostrophe or a comma there. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. $130, true, menu item, options, screen, screen that. Finally, we have back. Y coordinate, enabled true, menu item, options, screen, back. I'm going to copy that. I'm going to declare all these functions here. Oh, I think it needs to be done right here. Main.c, menu items, title screen, options. I can go ahead and fill this out right now. Previous game state equals current, and current game state equals game state options screen. Okay. Go back to menus.h. Need to make a menu item, a pointer to an array of menu items. Options, screen items equals all these things, GMI options screen. Sound effect volume. Music volume. Screen size. And finally, the back button. And then we declare the menu itself as gmenu options screen. The title of this menu will be options. The index will be 0, the starting index will be 0. It will contain count of GMI options screen items, number of items, and finally we need a pointer to that array of menu items. That ought to do it. Okay, we need a, do we have a draw option screen? I don't think we do. Draw options screen. also need a process player input underscore options screen. We'll do draw options first. It goes right underneath draw gamepad unplugged. Draw gamepad unplugged. This is going to be very similar. The logic in this function is going to be very similar to the title screen. Wait a second. Were there two mem sets in there? No. Just one. Okay. In the option screen, it does not matter whether, none of that stuff matters, whether a game has been started or not. We're simply going to reset the item to 0. And again, the idea here is that whenever you enter the option screen, the first option is going to be selected. If I then exit the option screen and then come back to the option screen at some later point, I want to make sure that the selected item is reset back to the first selected item. That's all there is to that. If it is enabled, then we are going to print it. Okay, pretty sure that's all we need there. We're going to come back to this function later when it comes time to, for example, well, you'll see, but on music volume and sound effects volume, I think we're going to have either sliders or bars to represent the current value. Let's go to, all right, that's that. Now we need to implement our process player input function. And again, we're going to copy from the title screen, I think, since the logic is so similar. It's so similar, in fact, that I could probably avoid duplicating a lot of this code. But we can do that later. Come back to that. I think we can eliminate all of this logic here. I shouldn't have done that. I think this is going to crash. Oh, it didn't crash. Let me go to process player input. The reason I thought it was going to crash is because I was afraid we didn't have a case filled out for this, and I thought we were going to hit this. I thought we were going to hit this assert. Just need your PPI option screen. And let's make sure render frame graphics has the same thing in it. Openings, gamepad, title screen, overworld, battle, option screen, draw, option screen. Okay. Okay, so far so good. We need to stop this. Okay, option screen back. G current game state equals G previous game state, and G previous game state equals game state option screen. Let's see if the back button works now. Does not. Whoops. Forgot that piece. There we go. So I'm moving to the option screen. and I can go back to the menu and notice that when I leave the option screen, my cursor is on back, and then when I re-enter the option screen, my cursor is back to sound effects volume. Okay, so we need to continue with draw option screen. I need to put this down here because I like having all of my variable declarations at the beginning of the function. As I've said before, that you used to have to do it that way back in C89. Now actually I'm not sure if it was C99 that introduced it or if it was earlier, but now you can declare variables at anywhere you want, but personally I still like doing it at the beginning of a block, at the beginning of its scope. For example, I can declare a variable right here, and the scope of that variable would only be valid in this if condition right here. But regardless, I like to do it at the beginning of whatever scope the variable is going to be relevant for. Anyway, all right, I need to draw. Do I make special cases for if I do if? No, I don't like that. String into buffer. Or we'll say, how do I want to do this? For volume equals 0, volume is less than 10, equal to sound effects volume times 10. And remember, GSFX volume is a float where it goes from 0 to 1.0. So I'm basically just converting it. I'm rescaling it from a scale from 0 to 1 to a scale of 0 to 100. Right? And we're going to print those funny little box things as our slider. And it's that sort of checkerboard box that goes at the end, that's at the very end of our font sheet. And it's represented by this character right here, this hexadecimal character. The color is going to be white, right? And then X will be this. I have no idea. It's just going to be 240 plus some offset, where offset plus volume. Volume times the width of the character, which is 6. And then the Y will be 115, I think. Otherwise, we're going to print that, but we're going to print it in gray, I think. And 0x. Let's make something up here. As long as all the color values are the same, it's going to be some shade of gray, right? Sometimes I spell it with an A, sometimes I spell it with an E, because English sucks like that. Alright, that's sound effects of volume. Let's see if that code even, see if it works like I want it to. And it's backwards. Gray, white, and it should be at 100, not 115. Let's see what it looks like now. Alright, that looks pretty good. And we're going to do the same thing, but for music volume. This is going to be at 115. I don't really like the way that these things are centered now. I kind of want to pull these back to the left a little bit. And I kind of want to align them on the colon characters. But, you know, we'll work all that out. Alright, now let's go to menu item, option screen, sound effects volume. Okay. I guess we'll just do G SFX volume plus 0.1F. We'll do if uint8 Again, we're sort of like playing loose and fast, converting it back and forth from a float to decimal times 10. If that value is greater than 10, we're going to wrap it back around to 0. Oh, and don't forget to apply this to the source of voice when you do it. We need to apply it equally. We need to apply the volume equally to all of our sound effects source voices. GX audio. This is, I hate typing this. GX audio, sound effects source voice, counter, virtual table, set volume. And this needs to be GX audio, sound effects source voice, counter, global sound effects volume. Commit now. X audio 2. Commit now. Okay, I guess that's it. And even though we haven't implemented music yet, or we haven't played any music yet, the logic should be identical. So we can go ahead and write this code now. And since we only have one music source voice, we don't need to worry about that for loop anymore. Music source voice, set volume, GX audio, music source voice. Music volume. Okay. It works. Notice it getting louder as I cycle through. I'll leave it on 5 for now. The music, we're not playing any music, so I can't tell if that works or not. I assume it does. I think we're out of time, so I can't do screen size today. We'll have to do it next time. But it's still looking pretty good. This code is starting to get messier and messier, so I am going to have to start splitting these things out into files. I may create different files for each game state. Like I'll put all the option screen stuff into a separate C file. I think that's probably the best. That probably makes the most sense. I also need to save, well, I need to save these things into the registry so that we don't have to reset so that the player doesn't have to reset the sound effects volume every time they restart the game. So we're going to do save volume to registry, and where we want to do that is totally up to us. We could save the options every time we we could save we could write to the registry immediately, like every time the user changes the volume. We could write to the registry when we leave the option screen. We could save to the registry when we quit the entire game, which that kind of sounds like the best option, since we could potentially have a lot more stuff to save to the registry that isn't necessarily stuff from the options menu. So I'll just leave it on the to-do list for now. Alright, so what else do we have to do? Well, we're at over an hour already, so I think we're going to have to call it for today. So we got some stuff done. We essentially we're just fleshing out our menu system. And where we'll go next time is we'll probably finish up this option screen stuff. I know we still need to do screen size in the options. We need to do saving to registry. We need to do I think what I want to do next time is transitions, transitioning from one game state to another, screen transitions. Think of like PowerPoint slides, transitioning from one slide to the other. And the reason why is because not only, and an example would be, notice when I hit enter and go from the title screen to the option screen, notice how the effect is immediate. I mean, it just immediately, the option screen is just right there. Well, if you have transitions that are like gradual transitions from one game state to the another, from title screen to option screen, and back again, if I implemented some sort of transitions, not only does it look more professional, but it also does a better job of emulating sort of that old school feel. It's more immersive when we do it that way. And what I mean by that is when you play like these old games on the NES and the NES, they would do this sort of gradual transition from like title screen to option screen to and back again. And I'm not sure if that was just because they wanted a transition to make it look professional, or if it was simply a limitation of the hardware, that it was actually loading stuff in the background while doing that screen transition. Obviously, we don't have to worry about that today. We have more CPU power than they could have ever imagined back in 1985. Literally, we don't have to worry about limitations of the CPU, but I still want to have those transitions to sort of like fade from one screen into the other, because I just think it just looks more professional, and it's more immersive for like the type of game that we're making. So alright, with that being said, we are done for today. As always, thank you for watching, and if you have any comments, please leave your comments on the videos. I'll address them in an upcoming episode. Be sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and if you want me to keep going with these episodes. And also, don't forget that we have a companion GitHub repository to go along with these episodes, so that you can follow along at home. And if you feel like there's if you really feel like you have something that you want to see done differently, you might even consider submitting a pull request to the GitHub repository. It depends. I can't guarantee that I'm going to accept your pull request. If I feel like it's doesn't fit the overall direction that I want to go in. But if it's a good idea, on the other hand, I'll be like, yeah, I'm definitely gonna accept that pull request. Anyway, that's all we have. So thanks again, and I'll see you in a few days. See you next time. Bye.